Mason Crane is here tonight. He's someone that I don't think we hear enough of, and we definitely don't see enough of on the field. Such a talented cricketer. So, Mason, welcome to the world's best cricket club, modestly named. Tell us where you are and what you've been doing today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just at home in Cardiff. I was just saying before we came on then that I moved here about a month ago, so settling in quite nicely. And yeah, it's our first day outside today, so hand warmers and jumpers and whatnot. But yeah, it's all starting to feel quite real now. The season's just around the corner.
Did you train with Glamorgan pre-season last year?
So I joined up, yeah, about this time last year. So I
Right.
had the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I played the couple of warm-up games as well. Yeah.
So I'd say you've been through that process, but you what, playing indoors before or in a marquee or something? How's the training been before?
Yes, we've just been indoors. We haven't been away anywhere, but to be honest, it's quite nice, I think, when you stay here and you sort of gradually build up towards the season. We've had a lot of guys away playing sort of grade cricket or club cricket in Australia, New Zealand. And yeah, so we've sort of all come back together the last couple of weeks or so. And yeah, we're sort of all building up to this point. I think our first preseason game's next week.
Oh, how is it for a spinner? You know, you say today you're outside. I mean, every time I get to late March, early April, I wince thinking of the challenge of being a spinner or being a slip fielder or something at this time of year when you've got cold wind kind of gusting across and you're expected to play as if it's midsummer. How is it for you?
Yeah, it's a bit grim actually. Obviously, can't really feel the fingers, and like you said, the sort of slip practice is what puts me off going in there actually, because I think in the middle of the summer I always think, oh, it'd be much easier if I could stand at slip actually. But you do have to do it in all the weather, and pre-season comes round, and I don't really like the look of that too much. But yeah, bowling wise, it's just a bit uncomfortable really. So much obviously the pitch doesn't give you much back, but also actually putting the revs on the ball to start with is probably harder than it needs to be. But to be honest, it's one of those things you know it's coming. It's not a shock, so just got to crack on with it, really.
Yeah, actually, I can remember, and obviously a long time ago, but I can remember bowling in April, and you do feel cold, but you sort of obviously warm up from playing, and eventually you shut it out. And the worst bit is when you're not bowling, and you've got to somehow keep those hands warm before you need to bowl again. It's tough. What's it like? Explain what it's like for somebody who, because you went on loan, didn't you, to Glamorgan originally? What is that like? I mean, you were with Hampshire from what, 2015, even maybe a bit before, and suddenly, sort of 8 years or 7 years in one county, and then suddenly you're put on loan to somebody else. What is that actually like? What's the feeling like?
Um, yeah, I think it feels quite natural at the time because for me it was one of those where it reached a point where I just needed to be playing cricket, and it was sort of becoming clearer and clearer that that wasn't going to happen as much as everyone needed and wanted me to at Hampshire. So, I was very much sort of at peace with it. It is sort of first day at a new school sort of thing. It's all that. But to be honest, because I'd obviously signed for the year initially, I just sort of treated it as I'm going to go and get really really stuck in. Treat it as if I'm here full time and just sort of go from there. But like I said, it was quite a mutual decision really because I decided obviously I needed to play more cricket. Giles at Hampshire, he was obviously on that in that boat as well. He was saying you need to play for yourself, but also if you're ever going to play here, you need to sort of keep playing in matches and stuff. So it was all very sort of amicable and felt like the right decision. So it didn't feel too alien really.
How did you keep yourself going all that time where, you had a great start and then, didn't have so much opportunity? How did you maintain yourself? I mean, this time of year, April, May time, is not a time where we're very good at playing spinners and you sort of have to sit it out. I mean, how did you keep motivated?
Well, because I love my job. So I mean, it's not for me very difficult really to. It's not really a thing I'm going to struggle with. I love bowling. I love playing the game. I love training and feeling like I'm improving. So yeah, I mean, I've also come to terms very very early in my career. I came to terms with the fact that there are going to be weeks throughout every season, perhaps even longer, where I'm not going to be needed, but I will be needed at some point. So I have to stay on it. And it's not easy sort of week to week as a spinner, sort of no matter how you're bowling, it's still week to week generally, whether you're going to be playing or not. But I think you just got to come to terms with that early on and not take it personally. I think you sort of almost got to put yourself in the coaches or the selector or the captain's shoes and go, okay, there some weeks it's going to be tough to get a game and do much, but that's an opportunity then to work on stuff maybe didn't go well the week before, or stuff you can add to your game for when you're next called upon. But with a couple of injuries in there as well, that's sort of, obviously if you're not on it, a couple of years can sort of slip by you, which is basically where we got to a couple of years ago.
I mean, is it also though an attitude thing? That we don't really manage spin bowlers very well in this country. I mean, I know Sean Udall, your former colleague at Hampshire, was saying that when he first played under Shane Warne, one of the first things Warne said is just bowl a couple of maidens so that you can stay on. Because if you get hit for 10 off and over, people just whip you off. Whereas if you're a seamer, you get hit for 10 off and over, people go, well, yeah, I can remember that happening to me, and they gave me another over, and you got it back together. But spinners seem to be on that sort of very narrow lifeline, almost a tightrope. If they do slip up and concede a few, then they're whipped off. Is there a kind of issue that we don't manage spinners as well as we should?
Yeah, I think there is, if I'm being honest. And actually, that's something Shane Warne said to me. He used to say that the attitude towards spin bowlers in this country is crazy to him because, likewise, he said it's one of those things very easy to like not pick, very easy to not bowl. But actually, it's the sort of thing where, you don't find your rhythm as a spinner right in the first over or two. You need to find someone. Like you said, there, a couple of maidens to start. I mean, that's always absolutely ideal. You get a lot of batters now. They know that, so they come really hard at you those first couple of overs, trying to get you out the attack. Because obviously, if you do settle in and find a rhythm, you're going to be a threat to them. So, I think the best captains I've had certainly make you feel a very important part of the side, but also show you that as well in their actions, in, like I say, keeping you on for maybe an extra over, or a time of the game where it'd be quite easy to look at another option to go, actually, this is the time for you. So I think as an attitude towards spin bowling, yeah, we maybe don't take it seriously, is not the phrase I'm looking for, but we perhaps don't recognize the potential all the time in what we can sort of get out of the spinners.
And what would your advice be? I mean, to a captain, doesn't have to be your captain, but any captain. I mean, how can they help, do you think? How can they help you and your like prosper more?
Well, I think it's about being used as part of the attack, the bowling attack, not after it. So I think a lot of the time you see spinners come on once the seamers have had a good go and they're tired and actually the ball's getting on a bit. Whereas I think the captains that really use spin bowl as well, they are certainly used as part of it. It's a couple of early overs maybe to have a look. It's a bit more of a sort of a vision of how they're going to be used throughout the day, instead of just sort of getting us through to the second new ball. Because I think obviously when you watch Test cricket, for especially away from home in India and places like that, the spinners come on quite early. The ball's hard. You have the seams still sharp on the ball, so you can get more out of it. And there's certainly times in England where you can use that. Not all the time, to be fair. I certainly think there are times in the season when we can use spin a bit earlier, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. Come back later on, and be used as an attacking weapon, not just, like I said, once the seamers have had a go.
Do you think also, this is a bit of a kind of left field idea, but do you think actually having DRS in county cricket might help the spinners cause a bit more, if it were possible?
Yeah, it would be interesting if it were possible, because I think there would be a lot of decisions. There would be a lot of decisions that change, but I reckon around the same number would be out, if you know what I mean. So there are like certain types which get given out in county cricket a lot. Like I see the seamers round the wickets, the left-handers all the time, LBW, and it just has to be perfect. So I think a lot of them would not be out. We'd get a couple of other style of wickets which probably would be out. So I think we might get a bit more of a bowl to left-handers spinners, because, like I said, I think everyone goes round the wicket. So like myself, I'd probably get more of an opportunity to bowl more left-handers into the rough, sort of thing. And then, yeah, I think you'd have a lot of batters quite worried about being aggressive with sweeps and stuff like that, knowing that if they miss it, they're probably going to be in a bigger deal of danger.
Well, I'm trying to. I asked that in a way because I have been working on a plan to enable that DRS eventually to come into county cricket, fixed cameras and things like that, sort of a miniature Hawkeye opportunity. It may or may not happen, but hopefully it will before you're too much older. Give you a bit more opportunity. And go on, be honest. How many LBW decisions or bat pad decisions do you think you've been denied over the last few years?
Yeah, I can think of a few, but
Yeah.
in all fairness, I've probably got a couple of those back, but
All
not
right.
quite as many as I would like. But again, like I said, I think that probably the amount of decisions given out wouldn't differ, but the ones that are given out, the style of them, we might see a few of those. I think we'd realize, okay, that right arm around the wicket, for example, is quite difficult to give out. For me as a spinner, like, I might get a few more on the front foot, given out, or that's actually in line and things like that. But yeah, I'm not overly sure, to be honest.
Just take us back to your childhood for a minute. 2005 Ashes. The story goes that you saw Shane Warne bowl, and that's what made you decide to be a leg spinner. Is that true? And if so, paint the picture, what it was like. Where were you? What were you doing, etc.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I not from a cricketing family. No one in my family's ever played before, and I just remember it's obviously happened in the summer, and I remember we'd come back from I can't remember where, but and they my earliest memory actually is them lifting the Ashes, and it was on the telly, and my mum said, "Oh wow, they've done it," and I had not really known what was going on, and then that Christmas I got given the box set, that infamous box set, and just watched that over and over and over and over again until it wouldn't play anymore, and just got into it from there really. And my mum had just signed me up to my local club, where I'm obviously still affiliated now. And it's
That
not
was
that
in
I
Sussex. That was in
in
Sussex, yeah.
Sussex, yeah, Worthing Cricket Club. So it's not that I decided I wanted to bowl leg spin. It's just that I just happened to bowl leg spin when I was sort of being taught to bowl. And then obviously with the videos and stuff, I realized Shane Warne was my guy. So I started watching him more and more and more. So, and that's sort of how it all took off for me. And like I said, I didn't really have a cricketing family. So what I saw on that series to me is cricket, and that is sort of all I grew up on.
And so the leg spin was a natural thing, really, was it? I mean, which actually, I know this sounds odd, but I think it's more natural to spin it that way than to bowl off spin. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's true, but I think when you watch kids try to spin the ball, they often do it that way around.
Yeah, and I think it's probably because you're using your more of your sort of whole body rather than just sort of fingers at the end. So I think it's one of those things. It does come naturally to some more than others. But for me, I actually remember when I very first started. I actually think the googly came first. Again, not really knowing what I'm doing, just trying to do something, spin the ball. I've sort of never been taught to bowl before. I do sort of remember bowling googlies first, and then realizing, okay, that's going to be tough to do for the whole 22 yards. And then yes, sort of finding leg spin and googlies together. And I think when I was a lot younger, that was the thing for me really, was obviously being able to spin it both ways. Still never really been taught how to do that.
Okay. So it was just sort of a natural thing and you progressed. So what was no pun intended, what was the turning point? What was the moment you thought, actually, cool, I can do this and I'm something different here?
Well, I think within a year or so of before taking up the game, I'd found myself in the Sussex age groups, and I think it was under 10s, and I was just really, really enjoying it. But I wasn't ever really in that first couple of years, I wasn't really one of the best players around. I was just quite happy to be there, to be honest. And there was a game we used to go down to the Taunton Festival every year, and I think the moment where I thought, actually, I'm probably a bit better than I thought I was about, yeah, I think it was under 10s, and we didn't get very many. We were bowled out, and actually got told I was opening the bowling to try and get some wickets. And I remember getting a few pretty much straight away, and we long story, we'd end up winning by one run. And I just remember thinking then, oh, actually, maybe I'm not just a sort of bystander, and I can play a bit more of a role. So sort of from that point on, really, my confidence grew. And I think when I sort of gained confidence with the game, that's what really took me forward quickly.
And who were the influences beyond that? How much influence did Warne have on you, for instance?
Yeah, well, I think he sort of became my hero, whereas previously, obviously, football had been the sport for me, and I was obviously a big Arsenal fan, so it was Thierry Henry and Tony Adams and people like that. It suddenly became Shane Warne, and he was sort of my biggest um, sort of hero in that sense, and I sort of really wanted to be like him and hear about him. And then obviously as I got to grips with the game, I started learning about other bowlers that style, like someone like a Stuart McGill, who was a wonderful bowler, and going back to Kadir and people like that, and actually finding out that there's not been that many really great leg spinners, and particularly for England. So Um, it almost makes you focus in even more and more on thinking how good he was, and there wasn't really too many around him either.
And did you meet him many times? Or you would have met him in Australia when you were on that Ashes tour. Did you meet him before that much?
Yeah, so I obviously met him in Australia on that tour, but then he obviously coached me at London Spirit the first year. So yeah, that actually twice I got to speak to him a little bit, but it's one of those where it's so hectic and busy. It was actually quite tough to sort of get a good chunk of time in at once. But when he was the coach at the Spirit, that was just the most amazing, 5 or 6 weeks ever, because every day we'd bowl together, like he would bowl as well. We'd talk about it and sort of have conversations really that you would only really have if you also sort of bowl leg spin. So it's always really cool to have those sorts of chats with people who were such amazing international players, because, like I said, there's sort of not too many around. But obviously, he was the king, and the way that he sort of carried himself firstly, but also spoke about the game and his knowledge and stuff like that is very, very, very unique.
It's interesting, it's because I followed his career very closely. I covered him when he was first in the Australian side, and I got to know his coach as well, Terry Jenner, who was known as the spin doctor. And if you think about it, the progression's quite interesting. So Richie Benno learned his leg spin from a couple of older players like Clary Grimmett and people like that in the 30s. And Benno then learned to bowl. And then he taught a couple of others. Terry Jenner was one of them. And then Jenner sort of taught Warne. And I was in the nets one day, early in Warne's career, actually. And Terry Jenner was there, sort of teaching him to do some one or two little kind of clever strategies. They were playing the West Indies, and Warne was bowling in the nets. And Terry Jenner said, Warne was bowling to Matthew Hayden, left-hander. And Terry Jenner said, well, when I used to bowl against left-handers, I used to go wide of the crease and bowl the same ball. And it would change the angle, and you could get wickets that way. And I got sobers, he said. I got Garfield sobers out. So give it a go. So Warne tried a few in the nets, bowling wider of the crease, same delivery. Matthew Hayden played and missed it a couple. And then in the match, the next day, West Indies Test, Warne comes on. Chanderpaul and Lara are in. He goes wide of the crease. He gets them both out caught, the same over. One caught gully, one caught slip. And at the end of the over, Terry Jenner's in the commentary box doing radio. Morney just turns and sort of doffs his cap to Terry Jenner, and Jenner's on commentary. But it's a long-winded way of saying leg spin is such a unique, almost magical art, and it's those little tricks that get sort of passed on from one to another. So you're the recipient of that in a way. That
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Warne probably have a few of those, to be honest, around the globe, 'cause he's so generous with his time. But you're right, like they're the sort of discussions you have, and yeah, and the sort of passing on of knowledge and stuff like that. You can only really have with each other in a weird way, because, like you said, he's sort of been there, done it before, and heard it from before then and before then. So, to have the opportunity to have had that time with him was honestly such a great honor, and I'm so glad that I got to experience that.
Yeah. And then, of course, obviously, it must have been the year after that he passed away, didn't he? So
Mm.
he just had 1 year. What a shame! How tragic! I mean, in so many ways. And I mean, now, how are you feeling about your game overall? You've been through a lot of things, and obviously played that one Test match in Australia. Was that too early for you, really? Do you think?
It's yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it perhaps was, to be honest, because obviously I had that test match. I got injured after and missed the best part of a year and a half, and it probably took me another year and a half to get back to somewhere I was really happy with. So, like you're never gonna obviously say no to a test cap, and it was probably the greatest honor of my life so far, to be honest. Absolutely amazing experience from start to finish, and my only regret really is obviously I got injured after and didn't get to go on and add to that. But I just think, obviously, I was just turned 20 then. If when I was 25, I might have been better equipped as a person to be able to cope with that. And again, now at 28, probably the same. But again, you get that naivety of youth, which is such an amazing thing and doesn't last that long in sport. So look, it was such a great honor, and it's probably the one match in my career, ironically, having only obviously only took one wicket. Ironically, is probably going to be looked back on the most. But yeah, I mean, if
Well,
it's
you
too
can
early,
change
maybe
that.
not.
You
But
can change that.
well, it's not over yet. Yeah, that's obviously a big goal I've set myself. Obviously, when I ended straight after them, was my goal is to add to that. It's a weird one. I think back in those times, obviously makes it sound like it was ages ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it was quite rare someone would play at the age of 20. Whereas if you fast forward to now and this sort of time, it's quite a normal thing to do, really, to have someone debut at that age.
Mm. Yeah, and Ren Armid was what, 18, was he when he played? Well, even 17 maybe. I mean, do you feel that you've been overlooked and you've got a point to prove in a way? I mean, there haven't been a lot of great spinners that have superseded you really, or played since you.
Yeah, I'm not sure to be honest. I think there's been times when obviously you feel as a player that maybe you're getting close and you're perhaps your name's going to be sort of in a discussion. Obviously played for Lions a fair amount since then, and I mean I played for Lions maybe uh 18 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago now. The last time I played for them and did quite well. So, it's one of those things really, that they come in waves and sometimes you got to ride it out and just wait your turn. And when you probably had a go, and then obviously with injury and whatnot, I'm probably back to the back of the queue again. You got to work your way back up. But it's one of those things where it's out of my control. I can't do anything about it. So I just keep bowling well, keep trying to improve, and then hopefully someone likes what they see and I get back in. But there's a lot of bowlers around now which are coming good, and I think there are good spinners out there in this country. I think, sort of contrary to popular belief, I see a lot of guys out there that I think can really bowl, but obviously we have to take into account where we're bowling and things like that. So, yeah, but we'll just wait and see. Like I said, all I can do really is keep trying to improve and wait for someone to take a liking to me and see what happens from there.
And how do you see this season from a Glamorgan and personal perspective? I mean, have you been given any indications about whether you'll be playing all the games, and how's it bowling in Cardiff actually as well? Because they tend to actually, I know Rashid tends to get left out of one day matches at Cardiff because of the short straight boundaries, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think as a club we're at it's sort of an interesting time because we've got quite a lot of experience in the side now, and I think we're reaching a point where with a promotion we really have to be targeting going up, and we've got some amazing players in the side who have played a lot of cricket, and I think as a team we're looking at doing as much as we can. Obviously, building on the 50 over success of last year, we missed out on qualifying in the T20s by a win or so, and honestly, we probably could and should have found ourselves going through there. So there's plenty to be excited about. From a personal point of view, like always, really, I'll play as much as I can, and whenever I'm called upon. Like I said, I'm not really naive to understanding that there are some games that sadly just aren't for me. Obviously, I love it if I play every single game. That's the aim in any season. But also, that's best for the team sometimes if we get an extra batter in there or we play an extra seamer. So it's one of those things. I said in a meeting the other day, you give it 5 minutes, you get over it and focus on the week after. Do whatever's required for everyone else around you. So yeah, I think that's something as well. It's easier to take in a side where you feel is moving in the right direction. And I certainly feel like this season we're going to be doing that.
And where's your favourite place to bowl then? I mean, is it Cardiff? I mean, where do you actually like to bowl? Where's your favourite bit of turf?
Well, I haven't actually bowled there that much, but I must say the last couple of games I've played there, bowling at Old Trafford is the one. I mean, it spins sharply and bounces a lot there. Obviously, when the conditions are right, but that's somewhere that I always sort of look at in the fixtures and see if we've got a game there. So obviously they're in our division this year. So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to that one. The last year or so, it's looked like it's spun a lot at Hove as well. I sadly missed that game last year through injury, but yeah, there's a couple of grounds now where I think they're realizing actually they do have a decent spinner and it's worth making wickets for them. So yeah, that's always exciting.
You never got approached by Somerset, I suppose, did you?
No, no, I didn't. To be honest, when I came here on loan and I just thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought everyone here was it was just a really great place to play, and I could obviously see the potential in the team. And I never actually spoke to anyone else. I just thought this is I fit in at home here, and I don't really want to go down the road of ifs, buts, and maybes and pitting people against each other. I just wanted to move here really, so I never really explored any other avenues.
So you're in Cardiff now. You've got a place in Cardiff. So are you almost honorary Welsh?
I probably was until Saturday or Sunday with the rugby. Yeah, I'm not sure they're having me now, but Yeah, it's obviously a really unique sort of setting for county cricket. It's the only team not in England. We sort of lean into the sort of uniqueness of it, and obviously the Welsh sort of part of their heritage and whatnot. Like I said, it's really enjoyable, and the people are so great here. So I'm really really happy to have been down here. Yeah.
And what's it like? Final question for me. What's it like playing with Marnus Labuschagne? Give us bit of a clue to what he's like when you're playing with him.
Playing with Marnus is exactly how you'd expect it to be. Yeah, it is whatever you expect, whatever you think it's going to be like with Marnus, that's how it is. So I've never really met anyone with quite energy for the game. Yeah, when he's came last year, I was bowling in one game and he's put the helmet on. No one's asked him to. He's put his helmet on and just started fielding close, and he's moving himself every ball. He's moving every fielder every ball. As I'm coming into bowl, I can see him like with his arms gesturing people around. Yeah, it's exactly what you think. He's the first in the nets. Yeah, all of that. He absolutely loves it. If there's change room cricket to be played, he'll be the one batting. But yeah, he sort of brings a great energy, which you don't see in a lot of people.
What are the rules of dressing room cricket these days? Is it caught off the wall or caught off the table, or is there a special rule? I mean, how does he stay in? Or he
Well,
doesn't give the bat to anybody else?
no, well, he doesn't always because we always just give him out. Yeah, generally no attacking shots really, so you're not disturbing the guys who aren't playing and someone having a cup of tea in the corner. But yeah, they tape up the seam and whatnot and try and make it spin and bounce and seam and stuff. So, but yeah, he'll bat in any scenario he can get in any format in anything. He just loves the game. So yeah, like I said, exactly how you'd expect him to be.
And of course, he's a leg spinner as well. Although recently he's been trying to bowl 82-mile-an-hour bouncers instead.
Yeah, well, he actually took a fiver for us last year in a T20, and yeah, I mean, he loves it. Again, like saying, if he's not batting, he's the one. Every ball, he's moving himself in the field to try and get where the ball's going to go. Like 1 minute turn around, he's at long on, then he's running to deep wicket, and then he's trying to get himself on to bowl. And if he can't convince the captain to make him bowl spin, he'll try and convince him that he can bowl seam instead. And
Well, he
he
did
just
take.
loves
He
being part of
actually
it. So.
he actually bowled seam, I think, yesterday, and he actually managed to take an inside edge, and the keeper caught it, and he did the biggest celebration I've ever seen in my life, just for something an inside edge off him steaming in. Well, I say steaming in, trundling
Yeah,
in
he's not the
Australia, and
worst,
he
and
actually goes
yeah.
crazy.
That's the thing with him. He's anything he does, he's going to be good at it. So he's actually not the worst, quite annoyingly. But yeah, he's just a big ball of energy, really.
Yeah, and I suppose it must be quite well. I remember we had Chris Wokes on this show once, and I said to him, "Who's your favourite and who's your least favourite member of the England team?" He said, "Well, my favourite member of the England team, Mark Wood, because he's got so much energy and he's just so
Mm.
infectious and he's funny and everything." He said, "My worst person in the team is also Mark Wood because he gets exhausting and I become,
Yeah.
he goes mad and it's too tiring." So I suppose does Labuschagne fit that kind of almost best and worst position, perhaps?
He does, yeah. Like I say, he's such a great energy to have, and not many people can provide that sort of energy. But yeah, if you're tired or coming off the back of a long spell or something, sometimes you need to take yourself away. But yeah, you'd think he'd sort of simmer down with age, but by all accounts, he hasn't at all. No.
Well, listen, very good luck for the season. We'll be watching actually, and wishing you all the best. Members of the club, over to you guys, and
Um,
thanks for coming. Thanks for coming, Mason.
Thank you very
Evening,
much.
Mason. Thanks for coming. So, just to touch on, obviously, you've played with Marnus. You're also going to be playing with Steve Smith this year with the Welsh Fire. Are you looking forward to sort of picking his brains from a sort of batsman's point of view, as what they don't like to face or where troubles him? Because he's faced every kind of struggle against spin bowling and pace bowling known to mankind. Are you looking forward to sort of sitting in the dressing room and sort of picking his brain?
Yeah, yeah. It's always exciting, I think, to share a dressing room with players who, especially like he's going to go down as a great at the game. So, being around someone with that sort of experience, and obviously he's a very good captain as well, has been. So he'll be brilliant to have around. And yeah, like he's obviously given it a crack being a bowler as well at international level. So be good to chat about that. But yeah, like I said, his sort of knowledge of the game and experience is always something that it would be a shame really if you don't sort of try and learn from him as much as you can, and always trying to sort of further your knowledge and understanding of the game and what's going on.
And of course, he may be able to give you inside, knowledge and tips of how to handle Marnus.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
You know, No, have to just tame Marnus, if there's any keywords or phrases or things he does that he can pass on so that Marnus just takes a chill for 5 minutes and let everybody relax.
I hope so. Yeah. No, that'd be nice if he could. Yeah, tell me how to sort of contain him.
We're going to go for who's your most and who's is the most superstitious player you've played with or played with against, or you've heard superstitions. Obviously, Marnus has got many routines like his coffee and putting a cheese and ham toasted and putting it in the fridge, which is just beyond me, to be honest. I don't see the point of that craziness. Is there anybody who's really suspicious? Are you superstitious? Do you have a little routine you do before you go out?
To be honest, I've not really come across anyone who's too bad. To be honest, I think yeah, I think people obviously got their own sort of thing and what they generally do. But obviously, I heard the stories of Neil Mackenzie. He was at Hampshire just before I was, sort of taping a bat to the ceiling and things like that. Nobody being allowed to move and whatnot.
Taping
But
a bat to the ceiling? How?
yeah, I think he used to do that. I think he used to, before he'd go out, he'd tape one of his bats to the ceiling or something like that. But I've never really played with anyone who's too bad, to be honest. You know, we've all got our own little sort of routine, but it just sort of builds itself into the sort of to the game. Really, you don't see many people sort of going out of their way to make sure all the toilet seats are down or anything like that.
How do you have any on field sort of little quirks to keep you entertained? I mean, we used to have spells where you could only field with your wrong hand, or you could only throw underarm using your left hand if you're right-handed, just to pass the time. Is there any of those things still occurring? A long day, flat wicket, nothing's going on. They're piling on the runs. You've got to keep yourselves entertained.
I've heard of like clapping overs before, where no one's allowed to say anything, you're only allowed to clap. I've heard of people sort of doing a whole silent over and stuff. But to be honest, I once I get in the rhythm of it, I don't really find it too long anymore. This is the way it's sort of broken down. I sort of break it down into spells, and I look at it sometimes and go, well, the maximum I can do in a session's 15, I think. So I can't do any more than that, and that's not really going to happen. So I just sort of take it in over a time that way. But yeah, I mean, like a superstition sort of way. I'm not really that big, to be honest. The only things for me are more comfort things around bowling. So I obviously try and turn the same way, turn around at the same direction at the top of my mark. But if that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen really. But yeah, if I'm in a bit of a rhythm, especially in a 4-day game, if I'm in a real rhythm, I'm going really well. I won't particularly remember what's happened. I'll just be sort of a little bit zoned out in that sense.
So you mentioned that you're obviously targeting promotion. So we're going to get some predictions from you. Who do you think will be the top two to go up in the Division 2? You think it's out, but who's going to join you?
Well, looking at it early, I think it'd be easy to say Lancashire, just because I think, well, if Jimmy plays a fair amount, that's going to be hard work, and they're obviously a massive club. I think Lancashire are obviously going to be a good side. Kent are going to be quite a good side this year. Yeah, so I think there's some good teams out there. And we're going to have to obviously play well, and we'll have to, like any team, really get a little bit lucky with injuries and keep key players fit. Yeah, I'd say like Lancashire, I look at them and go, they are such a big team with some really big players playing for them. They should be going up, really.
So do you think you guys just need to be more consistent compared to last year? Because there's a bit up and down last year, results wise, and sort of in the table, you sort of.
Yeah, I think we need to just win the 50-50 games a little bit more. I think we had a couple last year where we should have won, to be honest, and we just fell short. And the momentum that gives you can't really put a number on. Getting over the line in a close game is one of the best things you can do for your team, because it gives you the belief that next time you'll have that. And I'm looking back there at the game we had at Cheltenham, where we obviously tied. If we get over the line there and we sort of shoot up the table, you take that confidence forward the next couple of weeks, and you never know. So I think those sort of big key moments, close games, we come out on the right side of a couple of those early on, then the sky's the limit.
I mean, we've actually got teammate of yours on next week. It's sort of a Glamorgan double bill. We've got Sam Northeast next week. Is there any dirt you can share? And we can spring it on and say, well, Mason said, and we're going to stitch you up.
I don't have a lot of dirt, no, because he's the captain, so I don't want to annoy him at this stage of the year.
He's an angel.
It'll be a long year bowling into the wind otherwise. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot on him, to be honest.
Best be on your best behaviour. Well, we won't throw you under the bus too much anyway. So we're going to go with your ultimate cricketer. discussed it before. I'll give you a shot, and you just associate it with a player. It can be anybody in the history of cricket.
Okay.
If you say Simon Hughes, we will think it's rigged, right? So just to throw that out there, we will say it's rigged. If all of these answers are just Simon Hughes, we're going to say it's rigged.
Well, if you asked him, who would you like to bowl your slur ball to be hit over long off for six? That could be me, maybe.
Oh, that'd be you all day long.
Yeah, that'd be me.
So we're going to go for your defence. So who would be your defensive player?
Hashim Amla.
What about the cut shot
Alistair Cook.
and pull shot?
Pull shot. Ricky Ponting.
You can elaborate on these if you want.
Okay, cool.
Have you ever suffered any of them or anything?
I've suffered an Amla defence. Yeah, he batted the whole day and scored 30 odd. He took blocking out for the draw very seriously. He also played for us a couple of years prior, and I don't think I saw him miss a ball in the nets for a long time. He was a serious player.
30, Jesus. On drive and then on drive.
On drive, I'll go with Joe Root.
And the aesthetically pleasing, the beautiful looking, the wonderful cover drive.
Cover drive,
yourself, obviously.
Apart from myself, I'll say James Vince. Yeah, I've just watched him play so many of those over the years, and we always had a bit of a chuckle when the other teams get excited if he played a couple of drives, and you just know he's not missing too many of those. So you may well get him out playing it, but he will have hit 10 or 15 fours with it beforehand.
It is a very nice shot to watch. Sweep shot.
Sweep. Yeah, I'll say Joe Root again, just because I've suffered a lot of that in the nets. Bowled a lot of him, and yeah.
But who? The Lions?
England tours, and I was a reserve in Sri Lanka a few years ago when he sort of first came out with that sweeping every ball sort of thing. And remember, I was bowling with Matt Parkinson in the nets, and he swept honestly every ball I bowled. Didn't really miss one. Thin bat. It was quite degrading. And we had a warm-up game. He did the same. And I was thinking, Christ, I'm not very good. And then he went out and did it to Sri Lanka, and me and Parky turned to each other and we said, thank God for that, because it's not just us. He's doing it to everyone. It's actually fine. But he also did it to me last year. He scored 100 against us for Yorkshire, and I think he just swept every ball, even if it just goes for one. He's so good at it.
Well, you basically you're claiming a sort of assist for Joe Root scoring as one against Sri Lanka. That's what we heard.
Sure, I gave him the confidence that he can hit every ball if he wants to.
Exactly what we're hearing. You're claiming that as an assist. Who have you got playing a leg glance or a little whip off the legs?
Off the legs. I mean, there's some good ones. Let's have a think.
I like Shubman Gill.
Yeah, I'm going to say Markram maybe. Just he hits it so hard. Like I've played with him a couple of times. He hits the ball so much harder than you think he does. So yeah, a bit of bottom hand getting involved. I mean, you don't really want to be on the end of one of those.
You see, I like just it's the Peterson for me. It's the little flamingo flick with the leg in there, and he just hoiks it no matter where it was. We would just go, and then he just stand there and admire it. Who's your gun fielder?
My gun fielder is Glenn Maxwell. Yeah, I think he can do anything really. He's such a safe pair of hands. Like, I think whenever the ball goes near him, you don't really have any doubt. He's just one of those guys where he'll turn something into a wicket as well on the boundary, and throwing and things like that, as good as you're going to see.
I have him on the mic when he's on the mic in the big bash or something, and he's so blunt. He's like, why is he bowling that? Just put your bowl 90 miles an hour. Just bowl it in the stumps. Why are you trying to bowl a slow bouncer for? What are you doing? Why is that fielder there? And he's really blunt. It's fantastic. He's not. He just goes, I don't know why he's bowling that. That's absolute crap. That is awful. And he just slates the bowler while he's throwing them the ball back. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's Max. He's very much like that. Like Warne was the same. That sort of very very direct, very honest. But to be fair to him, he more than backs it up. So, but yeah, a hell of a player.
He is the big show more often than not. To be fair, who's your bowler?
My bowler's Shane Warne. Yeah, if you could bowl half as well as he could, you're going to be a world great. And not just his actual skill with the ball. That's one thing, which is, head and shoulders above most people on the planet. But mentally, I think we've never really seen a bowler work people out and then be able to execute quite that well. He was unbelievable.
He was on mic as well. It was the Big Bash game, and he was bowling to Brenda McCullum. And he was like, I'm going to bowl this. I'm going to move that field there, and then I'm going to bowl. And he did exactly what it is, and then he got him out, and he was like, "Woo!"
Yeah,
Just the
yeah,
way.
I,
Very good.
I saw him do that when he was London Spirit coach. He wasn't bowling, but he was standing there with myself and Roloff van der Merwe. We were bowling, and it was the same thing. He said to Ruller, he was like, move that man across there, have a fielder here. And now he's going to play a reverse sweep, and all you've got to do is nail a Yorker, and you'll get him out bowled. And exactly that happened the next ball. It's like he's come back from the future, and he knew exactly what was going to happen. His sort of tactical mind was amazing.
I'm going to guess the next answer then is might be Warne. We're going to go for cricketing brain.
He'd be. It'd be Warne, but again, sort of Owen Morgan would have to be in the discussion again. Like, so you had him as captain for a few years. He was brilliant.
Good about him. Tell us what was good about Morgan. What did he do then? This was at London Spirit, but yeah.
Yeah. So I've made my England debut under Morgan as well. It's a very similar thing. I think my biggest thing with him was I always felt like he always made you feel like you're doing your perfect role and you were bowling at exactly the right time. And every single game, that would be different times. He wouldn't be a right spin, you're in the middle, and you would never really question what he wanted from you without him saying a whole lot. So he said to me at the start of the tournament, from you, I want wickets. If you're in doubt, unless I say anything to you, it's wickets. And I'd come on early sometimes I'd be held back later. And I was just never in doubt really of what he was looking for. And he made the game very clear and simple for me as a player. He took a lot of the pressure off. He would, if he wanted to make a change to the field or something, it was always with a very sort of strategic reasoning, which, I get me completely on board straight away. So that's why I loved him being the captain, really, because he just sort of made you feel very, very comfortable as a player, and all you felt you really had to do was just bowl the ball. And like I said, he sort of gave you the freedom within that bowl, how you sort of wanted to, but the way he sort of moved the game around and manipulated his bowlers and stuff, while making everyone still feel like they're in their best role, was a real skill.
He seemed like a really calm captain. Nothing ever seemed to fluster him. Even if the bowlers were under the pump, you never saw him all like unsure what to do. He always seemed to have 4 or 5 options for every single scenario, and I think that's what England have definitely missed since he retired, because he was just can't remember any match where he seemed flustered and he didn't know what to do. Even if the batsman was on form and he was hitting bombs or six, he'd always have a plan, or he'd go to a plunket and say, right, for the next 5 overs, you're just going to bowl this length and just be a block at one end, or just something. He just seemed. I mean, I think England's best captain, maybe even overall. Would he have been a good Test captain? Who knows? Never got the chance.
Yeah,
Certainly,
he was amazing. He was great, and I think the way that he like you said, he was so calm. No matter what's going on, you get hit for 4, you get hit for 6. He was exactly the same. If you take a wicket, he was very, very calm, and he's one of those people where he's not a massive talker to the group or individually, but when he did speak, it was very well thought out, and obviously that's you listen to it and you remember. And he had an amazing ability to give people confidence, even if things aren't going so well, that we're doing the right things. And one of the best things he did was we lost a couple of games maybe the first year, and he cancelled training the day after because we lost 2 close games in a row. And a few of the guys like, actually, we might have hit that. And he said, lads, I'm going to cancel training. We're not losing these games because of our skill. Our skill's good enough because we're getting close in these games. But mentally, we need a break. That's why we're not getting over the line, is because our sort of mental part of the game's what's lacking here, not the skill level, because we're getting close. And I thought, actually, that's really brave captaincy, but also makes every bit of sense in the world as well.
Gosh, actually, I remember this brilliant piece of captaincy by Morgan in a game which many people won't remember. It was an India v England one-day international in Edgbaston, and I think India needed something like 12 off the last over, or 10 or something, and it was Dhoni batting, Chris Woakes bowling, and Dhoni hit a couple of early 4s, and Woakes was like really under pressure, and Morgan went over from sort of extra cover and just stood with Woakes and just stopped him from bowling, and kind of, just did a couple of tiny little field setting moves, but made Dhoni wait. And England won because he just kind of lost his rhythm. And Woakes, he bowled a couple of good Yorkers, and suddenly England had won by 2 runs or something. And it was just taking time and calming the bowler down and slightly annoying the batsman as well, which worked really well.
So would you say he was your best captain?
I think so, yeah. I think he's been my best captain. Like I said, another one really would be James Vince, to be honest. I think I need to mention him because on the field, I think he is as good as you're going to get. I think he reads the game well, and he really has won it all as a captain, pretty much apart from the championship. So yeah, I've been quite lucky throughout my career, really, to have great captains, and then obviously lucky again to have another one here at Glamorgan with Sam.
You had to get that.
But yeah, again, he's another great captain. I've been lucky throughout my career, to be honest, and it's perhaps a bigger deal than it looks from the sidelines. Really, when you have a good captain, they really do get the best out of all their players.
Okay, so we've got now two stupid questions, and then we've got a quiz about yourself. If you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be? So no matter what music was playing, you would only hear that song. What would it be?
My goodness me.
We know it's going to be a Spice Girls, so just which one?
Goodness, I don't know. Maybe Viva La Vida by Coldplay, something like that. Just a timeless classic. I don't get sick of.
What about film? Same sort of scenario. No matter what film was playing, you can only watch this. It's going to be Moana.
I would say Skyfall.
Skyfall. Oh, it's a great film, to be fair. That is a good choice. We will let
you
have
good music, actually, as well.
Yeah.
That track is brilliant. God, I can't stop listening to that.
That's a good choice. So it's not quite Moana or Toy Story, but it's fine. We'll let you off. So this quiz is all about yourself. Okay. So there's no pressure. Mr. Cook got 4 to 1 sheet. Hopefully you'll do better than that. Question 1 is, who did you dismiss for your only Test match wicket to date?
Usman Khawaja.
Correct. Good start. If you didn't know that, I'd be really disappointed. Question number 2, your best bowling in first class cricket is 5 for 35. Who were the opposition?
That was Warwickshire.
Correct. 2 from 2. Question 3, you have scored 2 first class 50s. Who were the opponents on both occasions?
Northants.
Correct. You're a cricket badger, you are, aren't you? Right? He's reading his he's got a cheat sheet in front of him and everything. We just haven't seen it. In your only first class match from New South Wales, how many wickets did you take?
5 in the match.
Definite badger. 4 out of 4. You're flying here. Now the worst you can do now is draw with Alistair Cook. So
okay,
it's not bad. You could do an England style collapse now and just still match him. It'll be fine. How many wickets have you taken in the 100?
Oh goodness me!
Oh yeah, that's it. It gets harder now.
I'm gonna say 23.
22.
Wow, yeah, I thought that'd be close.
I think you've got to give him that.
If only he had DRS, give you that. It was the DRS call, wasn't it? That's what it was.
Yeah, I'm going to give you that. That's bloody good.
Yeah, close.
We'll give him that close. One. Here, 6. I thought that's 5 on 5. In the Royal London Cup final 2018, which batter did you dismiss with a direct hit from the deep? Correct. You should have picked yourself as your fielder. Who needs Maxwell when you've got Crane in the deep?
Yeah, I had no back in that game either. I was playing with a stress fracture, and I was almost wincing. I was picking the ball up there. That was
you see, you definitely should have put yourself as a gun fielder. Question 7: who did you dismiss for your only T20 international wicket?
That was De Villiers.
Not a bad wicket. AB De Villiers. Well, it's not a bad. So your only Test wicket was Khawaja, and your only T20 wicket is De Villiers. That's not too shabby, then, is it? I suppose.
No, not too bad. No,
not too bad. Question 8: you're on form for full house. Only Paul Collingwood is, I think, one of the only ones we've got.
Liam Livingston got 10, actually.
Oh, yeah, Livingston got 10. He was a proper badger, though, Livingston, wasn't he? Yeah, and I think Paul Collingwood did have some help because he had two of the answers were on his wall. That's right. And then one of the questions was about a men's club which they frequented on tour, so he knew that one. Question number 8. Vitality Blast figures, all for 25. So I guess that's your best. Vitality Blast figures are 4 for 25. But who was it against?
Essex.
Yes, 8 from 8. You should have seen him all before. He was petrified about the quiz. He was looking at all his stats and books. And, he was asking if it's easy. Right, this one we're going to get exact now because I'm going to be really awkward. How many first-class wickets have you taken to date?
Oh, goodness.
I might give you 1 or 2 either way, but
Do you know what? I don't really... I know generally how many I have in general, as in all of them added together, but individually in the formats, I don't really know.
How many first-class wickets do you have to date? So that's all of them together.
100. No, I mean like T20 and list day. I just know it. Yeah. I'm going to say 156, maybe.
54. I think we'll have to give him
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
Two of those were
very
definitely
good.
DRSs.
Do you reckon he deliberately got that wrong just because he doesn't
Yeah,
look like a complete
he was,
batter?
yeah.
No, I can remember getting 150, but I couldn't remember how much we played after that in the seasons.
He was trying to Google at the same time as being on Zoom. Now, there's no
Right.
pressure, but this is for 10 out of 10. So no
Okay.
pressure. Just we're all expecting greatness now. Who did you make your first class debut against for Hampshire in 2015?
Durham.
10 out of 10. You are right up there with Fraser and Niles Crane as being the pinnacle of intelligence, right there. We've got a question from Robin, and then we'll do the prize wheel.
Well, just
Cool.
one other thing. I don't know if Andrew, we've got a different member on today, Andrew Lush, actually. Andrew, if you want to ask a question, you haven't been on one of our meetings before. If you want to ask Mason something after Robin's had his little go, feel free. If you want to shout something,
Yeah,
just
he's popped his
stick your
hand up.
hand
Yeah, if you
Oh,
guys, if
good.
if anyone
Okay.
does have a question, just pop your hand up on the screen, just so we know, because I'm not psychic. Evening, Robin.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Robin.
Sorry, can you hear me all right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
can hear
we're
you
good.
fine. We just can't
That's
see
fine.
you. That's fine.
Mason, great to see you, to hear you on our club for the first time. It's very entertaining what you've been talking about. You seem to be very pragmatic about all the various ups and downs you've had, and you've potentially got so much more to give. I had been watching you for several seasons at the Aegeus, and I continue to remain a Hampshire supporter. But you're just so phlegmatic about the amount of occasions when you are confronted by someone who's well and truly in and likely to be smashing you all over the ground. I think you've got such dedication to the game that I think your possibilities at Glamorgan, whether it's a specialist spinning pitch or not, are endless. And one thing we haven't talked about tonight at all is your ability to be able to score some runs. I saw you on the Isle of Wight a couple of 2 or 3 years ago, where you batted very well. And, we won the game that we were playing against Kent there. And it was a fantastic day. But I just wanted to commend you for your steadfastness in the face of so much competition, for the quality of your performance and dedication to the game. That's it, really.
Well, thank you very much. It's very kind words.
He's a
Thank you.
Hampshire supporters, Robin. You see, so he was always going to be nice.
Well, it's
Thank
good
you.
that they're still nice to me now.
We've been nice.
Yes, no question about that. But also, you've been very reasonable in what you said about James Vince's prospects of what it's been like bowling under him as a captain. I've watched him and Liam Dawson discussing various options at slip in the recent past, and they've historically, and may it continue for us in the shorter form, had a very good relationship.
Yeah, they're quite the pair, those two. They're very good mates, and they're both incredible cricketers, to be honest. So any team with those two in, you're sort of very lucky to have them.
Yeah. Anyway, have a great season at Glamorgan.
Thank you very much.
You might well see me down there.
Awesome.
He'll be
Thank
the
you.
one waving his shirt up on the balcony at Lords, cheering you on. It's fun. That's what you get with Robin. He'll have his hat off and his shirt off, just waving it. So you're spotting a mile off. It's fine. Thank you,
There's a
Robin.
breakdown in my car. Anyway.
Yeah, well, please don't break down in your car again. Thanks, Robin. Andrew, hi.
Hi there. Can you hear me all good?
We can,
Yeah.
but we can't see you.
Yeah.
You
Brilliant.
are the
Oh,
invisible man.
no worries. Well, firstly, it's always great to meet another Gunners fan.
The more the merrier.
Sorry, I pressed mute by mistake, Andrew. Go on. You mentioned Arsenal, so I had to turn it off. Andrew, you're on mute again, mate. If you want to pop yourself off mute.
Right. You got me now?
Yes, go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The Blast final, 2022, playing for Hampshire. What was it like when that no ball happened on the last ball? And what was kind of the experience of having to, thinking you'd won the whole tournament and having to go back and do it all, kind of bowl that ball again? I know you weren't bowling yourself, but what was it like? Everyone went into the huddle, and then next thing you know, you've got to actually get back in the competition.
Yeah, that was that was quite unique. That was sort of one of those moments where the sort of relief sort of washes over you, and you can't believe you've done it. But to sort of that moment be taken away by the no ball on the big screen was quite crushing, really. But it was one of those things. you know, when that happens, you just feel like with the momentum, it's going to be tough from there. But what I would say in that moment, I think James Vince really showed himself as a great captain. He kept it very calm. He sort of switched straight back into business mode. He decided what he wanted from the fielders, from the bowler. He got everyone together, and you know, before you know it, we're sort of back in where we were again, and it all felt a little bit like deja vu. We sort of had to live through it again, but you know, we can sort of have a laugh and joke about it now because obviously Nathan Ellis did his thing and bowled an amazing ball there for us to win it again. But I think the initial shock of winning it, the shock of the no ball, is sort of a double whammy that you can't really prepare for, to be honest. So there was a few seconds there where it was quite crushing, but you know, you sort of realised, you know, if we want to win it, we're going to have to do it the hard way. And fair play to everyone. We got back to it and thankfully got over the line so we can have a laugh about it.
I can imagine quite a stressful situation to get back into, but good. Well, I live in Lancashire at the moment, so I can imagine when I was watching the highlights, I was slightly gutted that they didn't switch the situation, but it would have been an absolute nightmare. I've got one more question, if that's okay, Simon and Rob.
Yeah,
crack on.
Yeah, of course.
You vote in the quiz. Rob mentioned that one Sheffield Shield match. I was just looking over the score sheet of that, and it was an absolute stacked lineup. Like you had Head, you were playing against people like Travis Head, Zampa, and in your team you had Pat Cummins, Dougie Bollinger, and some real kind of who's who of Australian cricket. How did it come about you playing in that match?
So I had it was a bit of a perfect storm, to be honest, because I had gone to Australia to play grade cricket, and it had gone quite well. And through knowing the S&C coach at New South Wales, he used to work at Hampshire. I had sort of organised to come in and net bowl during the weeks to sort of keep myself ticking along. So I was obviously doing that. I was sort of around a little bit. And then in the second half of the season, Australia had a tour to India, which Nathan Lyon and Steve O'Keefe both went on, which sort of left New South Wales without. They had Will Somerville, who played in that game with me, without another spinner after that. And yeah, they sort of were looking around grade cricket, and sort of without blowing my own trumpet, it was going quite well. I did take 3 7-fers in a row for my club, and that, and obviously bowling in the nets at New South Wales sort of was going well, and so I was invited to play in a second team game with this game in mind, because it was going to be at the SCG end of the season. You know, it's going to spin. So I played a second team game where again I bowled quite well in that. I got a few wickets, and then I sort of found myself in a New South Wales squad, and then luckily got the nod on the morning of the game. So it was a bit of a perfect storm, you know, enough players being away, myself obviously bowling well enough. But like you said, it was an amazing team. So I was very aware of how lucky I was, and sort of privileged to be in a position to make an appearance.
One final quick question from me, actually, Mason, is who would your pick be for England's white ball captain? I mean, we've talked about captains a lot today. I just wondered if you had a kind of insight into who you thought might be the best to get the job.
Well, again, I mean, there's no real obvious candidate, I guess, which makes it quite tough. I think I would personally be really, really intrigued to see how James Vince would go. Personally, just because I think from a captaincy perspective, he's probably as good as you're going to get. And coupled with the fact that I actually think he really, as a player, you know, I really feel he could have and should have had a lot more chances to play for England. I think his last innings for England was 100. So I would be really interested to see that. And yeah, I think he's someone who perhaps the sort of wider public don't necessarily know him too well, and I think they'd be pleasantly surprised if they did. So yeah, I'd be very, very interested to see how that would go.
What is he like, actually? Because he's slightly mysterious. I mean, he looks very kind of, you know, relaxed on the field. I mean, off the field, what sort of guy is he?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's very quiet. You know, you don't get a lot of words out of him, and you know, if it's just you and him, you know, when I was a lot younger, I used to be slightly intimidated because he's very sort of comfortable in silence. And you know, like you said, I can understand how people feel he is quite mysterious, but he's sort of very quiet. But I wouldn't necessarily say he's wildly introverted. You know, like when, yeah, he's just sort of keeps himself to himself a bit, and as a leader, he's certainly more actions than words. You know, he leads from the front in that regard, and he's not going to be the big rousing speech before you go out there, but you are going to find yourself really wanting to play well for him.
Right. Okay. Let's see what happens.